starting in about 2 minutes. Okay. Oh, I see. Hi, Mark. There we go. Now I see you. And are you able to hear me? Oh, I can't hear you. I wonder why.
Because I'm muted.
Ah, well, that would do it.
There we are. Just a few more clicks. There we are.
So as you can see, you're the only one here. This is not the first time that's happened.
No, but I was counting on Bernie to make it the biggest group so far.
Yeah, me too. Or someone, anyone.
Yes. Wait a minute. Let me yell at my neighbors. I'll be right back. No, just kidding.
I was thinking about that because, you know, especially the live participation has been limited, to say the least. Although I've got now more than 120 people subscribed to the newsletter. And it occurred to me that probably right now there's more alternatives for people to attend online meetings, conferences, sessions, webinars than there's ever been before.
Yep.
And though the size of the audience has probably grown somewhat, it probably hasn't grown nearly at the rate of the size of the offerings. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, no, I think that's right.
Yeah. I also think it's a holiday week this week in the US. I'm not sure.
Yeah, not so much.
Not so much? Okay.
Yeah, Columbus Day has become very contentious. So for some, it's more of a holiday than ever, but for the majority, they just,
yeah,
it was never a big deal to begin with, unless you're Italian American. So
yeah. Do they get the day off?
That's a good question. Is it a federal holiday? I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. I'm not a state employee, so I'm not up on all the, on all the sanctioned holidays. I don't think so, but I'm not sure about that.
And I guess also with so many alternatives available to people in their own time zone, people in Europe, in Britain, and points east, I guess, don't really feel the need to stay in after work and keep working.
Yeah. Well, plus you've caught them right at the end of their day, right? So
Yeah.
they're in transit probably at this hour. Yeah.
Either that or eating supper. It depends on
Yeah,
whether
depending on where they are. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I see your hat. That's the LA Dodgers hat, I'm assuming, not the
Yes.
Angels hat. So you must be pretty happy right now.
I am. I have to say, beating the Giants and having two teams, one with 106 wins and one with 107 wins,
I know.
was truly unique. And it's kind of, now the Dodgers have to travel to Atlanta. A team with 10 less wins gets to be the whole team. So there's a problem there, but whatever.
That's kind of weird. Yeah. I'm a bit surprised. Well, because the Dodgers were the wild card, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And first time the Dodgers and the Giants ever played for the division championship.
Really, eh? Wow.
Yeah. Because usually one's out, right? This is, I think, right? So, first, I believe I heard them say it was the first time. I don't spend a lot of time on it anymore, but anyway.
I believe it. Yeah. I mean, there have been some classics with the Giants in Oakland and the Dodgers in Oakland, but
yeah.
This
was the first time. And of course, all my Giants friends are all whining about the called third strike, but it was 2 out, 1 on, Scherzer pitching. I don't think it changed the outcome, but
no,
we never know.
No, so. Absolutely not in my mind. I mean, the way to look at it is, if you're blaming a called third strike for losing the game, you probably haven't done enough during the game to win.
Exactly. Yeah, that's always been my position. If you're complaining about the calls, you just haven't scored enough runs.
Yeah.
And that was my concern with the Dodgers, and still is. They got shut out twice. I mean, come on. You can't squeeze out one run. A bunch of millionaires can't squeeze out one run.
No way.
So
yeah.
Anyway, I'm happy today. Tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah. You're happy I am.
Well, yeah. But you live in Toronto, so you're almost like a Cubs fan.
Hey, I guess they won the series, but we won the series twice back in the 90s.
Yeah. Not quite as bad as the Cubs.
And we have a fun team too.
Yeah. Always kind of like the A's. I've always thought that the Blue Jays were one of those just fun, hey, we got nothing to lose kind of teams.
And we got 91 wins and finished 4th.
Yeah, that's a tough division. Yeah. A lot of teams have won their division with 89 games. So that's tough. Well, look at the West. 107, 106. I'm sure that's the first time that's ever happened.
I think it is.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, I hate to be any of the other teams. Poor San Diego. All that money. That was
they were picked to be almost as good as the Dodgers. They were supposed to be the second team, but didn't happen.
Oh well.
So I have one big question. I tried to install Grasshopper in 2018 and failed. And I tried to install Grasshopper last week and failed, and put in a ticket to Reclaim. I know the guys at Reclaim Hosting. I've met them in person, in Virginia, and nobody answered. And I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
So
that's surprising that nobody answered, because
first time. Yeah, I've been with them for years and always get an immediate response.
Yeah.
So it's been a busy week, so I'm going to circle back. They're good. Tim's right there. Jim's in Italy, but Tim's right there. And I'm assuming they're going to help me fix it. But I just wanted to say I may be asking more questions about Grasshopper.
Yeah, that's no problem. Clearly, there's time to do that.
Yeah.
It's not like you're interrupting other people asking about ethics. If they wanted questions about ethics, they should have joined the chat.
Yeah.
But which way did you try to install it? Just as a cloud, like in Docker,
No,
or okay?
that's
So
probably what I should do.
yeah, that's a lot more reliable, uh,
Hmm.
especially the PLE. Like there's two versions, right? There's the PLE version and the course version. The PLE version is more advanced, and I've got various instances of it running even now. So it should install without too much difficulty if you install it using the cloud. And have you gone to you've probably gone to the GitHub site, right?
Yes, that's where I
Yeah.
downloaded it.
Yeah. So there's instructions there on how to install it using cloud, using Docker.
Okay.
And
I've just never done that, so I shied away.
yeah,
I guess it's time.
I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially, I mean, I say from experience, if something goes wrong, it's doing it in the cloud is so complex, it's really hard to figure out what went wrong. But when it goes right, it's beautiful.
Okay.
Because it's a one-click install. Well, not quite one click, but virtually a one-click install. And then you're up and running. The way I recommend people do it is to use the Docker cloud environment. They have I think it's just not Docker cloud environment, the Reclaim cloud environment. I think it's just cloud.reclaim.com. So you'd need to get an account there.
I do. Yeah, I have.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the
All right.
thing. Reclaims
Yeah.
my, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then, I've tested it on Reclaim dozens of times. So I'm pretty confident with that installation.
Okay,
Still
well,
not perfect. There's no end to the bugs that can crop up, especially if people do something different. But it's working a lot better than it did ever, and is a lot more reliable than just trying to install it, in a typical instance, like on a typical web server.
okay.
In fact, the login function won't work properly. I can tell you that right now, and at least not on Reclaim's cPanel sites. And it's because one of the requirements for encryption doesn't install properly on the Reclaim site, and I don't know why. It reports that it's installed, but then when you try to run it, it says, I can't find it.
Yeah.
So, but I really felt, I felt that it needed better, just better security on the login, 2021 security as opposed to 2001 security.
Yeah, big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. And I'm happy I did it, but it really means you're working with, you have to use the cloud. I plan to migrate all of my stuff to the cloud, even this course. And the idea will be that people will just be able to install a cloud version of this course in any Docker container that they want, or more accurately, any Docker cluster of containers that they want. And I'll never know they took it.
Yeah, that's interesting, but apparently necessary in this new environment.
Yeah, but it's fine with me. I mean, in the background, I've got a presentation coming up next Tuesday at the Open Learning Conference, and the title is, "What does it mean to enroll in a course?" And the thesis is that if you want it to be open, then you shouldn't have any sort of registration.
Yeah.
But what does that look like? And this course is meant as the example of what that looks like. And I'm discovering some things. And I'm discovering it's hard on the ego because you don't really see the people who are in the course.
Yeah.
And I assume people are there. I mean, there might even be someone watching on YouTube right now, and I just have no way of knowing it. Yeah. Unless they're chatting in the YouTube chat, but I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing us here.
Let me flip over to YouTube and see if there's anybody in the chat. Although, so I'm still seeing yesterday's
Try reloading the page. You're in the activity center.
Yeah, I think I got there out of activities. Yeah, and it's still showing yesterday's. Let me start over.
Yeah, that's weird because it shouldn't be.
Yeah. Okay, so let me reload activities and then go to YouTube. No, it's yesterday's.
Oh, I see where you are. Go back to the home page, the course home page.
Okay.
And then in the upper right below course newsletter is activity center.
Oh, there I am. Okay. I thought that's how I got here, but it was already open from before. So, okay. Yeah. So now I can go to YouTube and then nobody's in the chat.
No. It says 2 watching now, but that might be the 2 of us because I just went.
Yeah, that's probably us.
Yeah.
So can I take a minute and tell you my interest in the course, since I have this unique opportunity?
Yeah.
So, well, when was it 3-4 years ago in Vancouver now? It seems like it was just a year ago or 2, but anyway, where we met at some open conference, I'm not even sure. My main, I have 2 main focuses. So I've been going to Victoria for the Digital Humanities Summer Institute.
Yeah.
Learning about digital humanities as, so the umbrella for my digital transformation from a glassblower, which is definitely not digital. And my main focus is e-portfolios for adults to document their informal learning, to be able to present it as evidence of prior learning for college credit.
Sure.
Right? So I followed kind of the Scottish model with their further education, catering to what I call taxpayers. Some people call citizens.
Yeah.
Since we pay for all this, we ought to have access. So back to access, we ought to have access to it. And I made a presentation to ABLE, AAEEBL. I can never remember what all that stands for, but they're the e-portfolio people. Several years ago, saying that it would be helpful if e-portfolio people had an ontology or whatever, controlled vocabulary for their public e-portfolios so that they could find each other. And I got a big shrug from a bunch of people with PhDs. Whatever. But I kept at it and joined the SIG group about technology and kept presenting, and they were busy on their adding e-portfolios as the 11th high impact practice on the AAC&U list. And they told me, well, when we get that done, definitely doing this. Okay. And then COVID, right? So I really haven't heard from them.
Yeah.
Right. So that's fine. That's fine. So that's all to say. Well, and then there's, so that's one part, two parts. Third part, I'm hoping to be able to use something like Omeka, Omeka, free and open source software that libraries and museums use.
How's that being spelled?
Omeka.
Omeka. Oh, I have seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's by a reputable group on the East Coast that does several free and open source softwares around journalism and libraries and things. So and then based on my digital humanities work, I'm thinking a flat website of just pages, but then there's a big struggle with Hugo or one of those. But that's been coming along. To have this e-portfolio be just flat pages, right? So it's transportable and archivable and all of that, based on a graph storage, right? And I've taken some seminars from Neo4j, and then now there's this Tiger Graph. I just did a little seminar with them, webinar with them. But I'm not a programmer, I'm not a computer scientist. So I just want to use the stuff, right? And it's not quite there. But so putting all that together, what I would hope to do is have my own graph of my own learning, and then be able to, using a controlled vocabulary, be able to share that with other ePortfolio people, whether they have a graph database or not, whatever. And then I'm piloting this at a university in Minneapolis, Minnesota, even though I'm in Los Angeles.
Right.
Where they're going to give me credit for the stuff I post on my own website. So it's a long, complicated story, but there it is. And that's why I'm here, just to learn more about open work, and then just hopefully solve some of my technical problems. So we'll see. And increase my learning network.
Sure.
That's the other thing, is finding other people who know more about this stuff than I do.
There are other people. I see now from the course activity center that there are some people watching this video. So it's not just us.
Oh, good.
But what you say is really interesting to me, because part of what I have in mind doing is creating a graph of a lot of the concepts in this course using Grasshopper. For example, we're moving into, after this module, we're moving into the module on applications of learning analytics. And, I've been collecting examples of different applications for several years now. I've got a big list of examples. And I've kind of categorized them. But I'm sort of curious to see how other people would categorize them. I'm not necessarily fixed on the idea of a controlled vocabulary for these, but I am kind of curious, how would we group them? So basically what I want to do, I don't know if I can do this, but what I want to do is create the list of applications in one column and create a list of categories in the other column, and then have people just draw lines between the applications and the categories if they match. Now, there's a practical problem, right? There are like dozens and dozens and dozens of applications, and potentially even dozens and dozens of categories, although I don't have dozens and dozens. So I'd have to show subsets of these to make it manageable, but that's okay. You just go through several screens of this. It can be a fun thing. That's one of the things that I've been thinking about doing during one of the live sessions, one of the Friday sessions, is, have people do that and then look at the results. Of course, we'd need people, but all of that aside, we may well get more people as this course continues. But and then the week following is the ethical issues module. And now things get pretty interesting because it doesn't depend so much on how I organize things, right? It's an application if it exists. It's an issue if somebody's raised it as an issue, and I don't need to sort them out. But I can just have a row of issues and a row of applications and have people draw a line between the application and the issue. Let's see what that turns out. And the idea here, and this has always been my thinking about using graphs to understand any of this stuff, is that it's more interesting to create and look at the graphs that people create as opposed to create and look at the graphs that machines create, which is what most artificial intelligence does now. And I was working on a personal learning environment project years ago, and I had graph people and even AI people, and they just all wanted to take raw data and analyze it. And they didn't want to look at the graphs that were out there in the world. Yeah. And I want to look at the graphs that are out there in the world. I've got, again, hundreds and hundreds of resources, which I'm just going to load into the system as links. And then these links all map to applications, or they map to issues or whatever. I'm trying to think of a way to make that work. Again, not an automated system, because I could do it by keyword or whatever, but that's kind of artificial. And it's kind of me picking winners, if you will. This keyword matters, that keyword doesn't. This right. issue matters, that issue doesn't. But if I can find just cases where people actually, or people, where I actually refer to a specific resource in the context of a specific discussion, or whether other people do that with their own blog posts. So somebody writes a blog post about an issue. If they're referring to a particular resource, there's a line that can be drawn. And ultimately, there's this big, huge graph of resources, people, organizations, issues, applications. And then I can just choose a simple, say, JSON format, or there's a graph markup language that I've been using that I think that's Matthias Melker's language, but I'm not sure whether he got it from somewhere else. I once knew that, but it's now months in the past. So, yeah. But it's there, it's defined in the system. And so that would, getting this all together would make Grasshopper a system for doing that kind of thing, and then sharing the result with other people and building gigagraphs, if you will, or comparing graphs, whatever. I don't know how that would work out, but I think it would be interesting. So that's what I have in mind. And that seems to mesh pretty well with what you have in mind.
Yeah, it sounds like it. But again, you have a lot more technical knowledge. I come at it as a student and a user.
Yeah.
So that's extremely limiting on my end. So I'm searching for a solution, and ideally, I guess a container with all the appropriate software that can be easily copied would be the solution, apparently.
Well, and that's my thinking, that you shouldn't need all this technical knowledge to be able to work through material and create these graphs and be able to look at the output and draw your conclusions. It should be a lot easier.
Yeah.
Right now, it's
total. Well, we're on the bleeding edge, so
yeah.
so it will get easier. And then I think that the whole graphing implies a controlled vocabulary, right? Because the edges, the connections have to be rationalized, both for us and for the machines. But it could be organic, it could be a harvested ontology or controlled vocabulary, whatever you want to call it. That can be, organic and growing. But as long as there was a place where people could go and say, oh, I should be using that keyword, because then it makes it easier for everybody to find me. So it's not a top down. I'm not thinking of it as a top down. I'm thinking of it as a bottom up, organic, but yet, helping for discovery. And machines are going to be in there. I mean, this is, you can't get rid of them. So I'm with you that it should be organic, should be human created, but then use the machines, to be helpful. That seems like the right approach.
Yeah. See, for me, take the meaning of any given term, and a controlled vocabulary will limit it. I'll just represent that with a circle. That is not a symbol of whatever. It's just a circle.
Yeah.
Have to be careful because this hand gesture has been appropriated by not so nice groups. And
exactly.
This is not that.
Yeah.
And what I think of it as is it's really like overlapping circles, multiple overlapping circles. Wittgenstein used the expression family resemblance when he was talking about defining words in this way, like the word game. There's no set of necessary and sufficient conditions to define a game. For any definition you offer, there will always be something that is included in the definition, but it's not a game, or something that is excluded from the definition, but is a game.
Yeah.
So really the concept of a game is a bunch of overlapping concepts. And you can't really nail it down. And it varies from context to context, from person to person, use to use. And to me, that's okay. Because what it says to me is that a word, any word, but a word like game, isn't a simple concept. It's a complex concept. And the meaning of that concept is much more precise than we can express using words. And this meaning is captured by its placement within the graph. So we don't need to worry about defining the word or even using the word. We just take note of when the word is used and what that use occurs in association with. And it's, to me, it's interesting because when somebody uses the word game, the first question people ask is, well, what did you mean by the use of the word game? And they may know or they may not know. They may know more or less precisely. But even they themselves probably, to my mind, couldn't articulate exactly what that means. So we have to determine what it means empirically. Where was it used? How was it used? What was the context in which it was used? What seems to follow from something being a game? What seems to lead to, you draw these connections. You basically, I think it's probably a two-step process where you map out all the connections to create a graph, and then you try to do analytics on that graph with respect to a particular term in order to form hypotheses about what that term means. It's similar to the way we might try to explain why an artificial intelligence made a decision about something. Why did the AI say that this action was illegal? Or why did the AI fail this paper, right? There's not going to be a simple, precise definition of pass and fail. But if we analyze the graph that produced the fail result, maybe we can come up with a story that we can understand about what failing means so far as that AI is concerned. So I don't worry about a restricted vocabulary. And actually, and I've designed Grasshopper that way. And because I think everybody will use these terms differently.
Yeah.
So each person uses their own instance of Grasshopper, so we don't have to share our vocabularies. Each person defines their own list of entities, their own properties of entities, whatever, and then shares that. And they just share it in this unstructured JSON format, which basically says, this is a thing, this is a property of a thing, this is the value of that property, keep it as basic as possible, and then allow people to import other people's graphs and apply whatever sort of processing to someone else's graph that they want to do to it to integrate it with their own. Right now, I would use a set of rules to do that. I have in my RSS harvester, there's a section in the processing with some predefined rules that allows that to happen. And I want to apply that to JSON imports as well. Or they could just take it and blend it in however it blends with their own system, because it will blend. And it may produce confusing but interesting results.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. So that's a higher order than I was imagining. And you think the AI can do this without a controlled vocabulary, without obvious intervention, just using textual analysis of content?
Well, using maybe graph analysis, but I don't know. And I'll be really honest about this. I don't know what the AI can do with the sort of data structures that I'm interested in creating. So
that's fine. Experiments are fine. I mean,
that's fine.
Yeah.
To me, it's the data structures themselves are inherently interesting. And we don't really have any practice, as a culture, as a society, as a species, in creating and working with these data structures. The best we've managed really up until very recently is, relational databases. And even that is a pretty big step forward from where we were, say, 30 or 40 years ago.
Absolutely.
So, this is all new.
Yeah. And then I just have the hesitation. Chris Gilliard's work?
No.
Dr. I always bug him. You should remember to say Dr. Chris Gilliard. He never does. He teaches at a community college around Detroit, and he works on what he calls digital redlining. And
okay. I'm familiar with digital redlining for sure.
Yeah, well, I think that's his term, but if not, he's out in front of using it. In fact, he's a Harvard fellow right now. So,
okay.
So there's just that, in the back of the mind, distrust of the algorithms, but then it's just a matter of who controls it, and is it open, is it editable by the user, I guess. But then again, how many users have the capacity to review or analyze an algorithm? I don't. I know I don't.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm just typing a link from Chris Gilliard into the chat in the activity center. I just looked it up quickly while you were talking.
Sure. I often do that in meetings, drop links in.
Yeah.
It's helpful as long as the chat gets saved. There's always that to remember to save it. But
Yeah, well, it does.
yeah. And
This
then
is right. Everything gets saved.
well, yeah, I wish I believed that, but I keep losing things, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I mentioned in my blog post, I'm still not, I guess it worked. I guess it's hard to, I've been traveling, so I just got home a couple days ago, so now I can settle in.
Yeah.
But I mentioned that back to open, Dr. Mia Zamora in New Jersey. She works with Alan Levine.
Mhm.
And her writing classes have been open to the public for I think 3 years now, where
Mhm.
they're a standard state university course, but then she allows the overlay of open participation.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I do too. And so I think she's on the cutting edge. And then she did a course with the Digital Pedagogy Lab that's at University of Mary Washington,
Right.
ES 106 and all that came from.
Yep.
This summer, she did a course, sort of a feminist duty of care course
Right.
with Dr. Mahabali from Cairo.
Right. Who I
And
know as well.
so that's the pathway that I've been on currently. That was just a couple months ago, and now here I am, hoping to continue on, learn more about that, the ethics of care, and learn more about the algorithm and how we can make sure that it's open
Mhm.
to ethical adjustments, I guess would be the corrections, whatever.
Yeah. And those sorts of considerations are what lead to this course. And we're going to go back and look at the duty of care and where that came from. But we have this mix or this blend of graph or network and open or care and all of that together. And it's not at all obvious how it shakes out, at least not to me.
No. This is definitely an experiment. That's why I'm so interested to see how this goes. Now that I'm home, I can reach out to Chris and Maha and Mia and just give them a heads up. Did you hear that this is going on? And see if they want to drop in or whatever.
Yeah, be great if they did.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And so it's Tuesdays and Fridays are these open chats.
Generally, it's Monday and Friday. It was
Monday and Friday
this week because Monday was a holiday in Canada.
Right. Okay, so Mondays, Fridays. So I'll alert them to that. I'll send them the link and ask them to drop in, and maybe a couple other people if I think of who I can think of.
Yeah.
So as a student participant person, I signed up for this when I saw the announcement. That was a few months ago, and then it sort of pops up. It seems to me that you need to run these regularly, once a year or twice a year, right?
Yeah.
And the whole promotion.
Yeah.
I know. Nobody wants to do it. So let me say that I would be willing to volunteer some time in the 6 to 4 weeks before you run the next one, just to try to, right? Because it would be a lot more fun if there are 4 or 5 other people there.
Yeah.
At minimum. And again, if it was regular, whatever that means, but then you would build an audience.
Yeah. Also, if it was regular, I wouldn't have to spend so much time at the beginning of the course making sure all the software works.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It would be ongoing, and so you would get the effects of the cumulative effects of both the technology and the networking.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just, because I got frustrated that, I thought it was like last year. It was 2018.
Yeah.
Right?
I know.
Hey. Yeah, I know.
3 years.
Yeah, it's been 3 years. And I got frustrated. I couldn't get Grasshopper installed, and something else came up, and there it went.
I totally know.
Yeah, you know how it goes.
I have a series of videos called Stephen Follows Instructions, where I try to follow somebody else's instructions to set up a project, and 9 times out of 10 they fail.
I know. And I'm one of the few people I know that will stay up late at night and just hammer away at it again and again and again. And even then I fail sometimes. So, usually you can kind of get it to work, but
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, and it shouldn't be that hard. And again, back to, I really want working class people, people with families, to be able to sit down at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock at night, and do 45 minutes work, documenting something that eventually accumulates to enough to get college credit.
Yeah,
and nobody's going to go through all this that has a job and a family.
No.
No, so that's just
got to be easy. It's got to be accessible. All of these things are part of, open, if you will. Not just making it available. I think we've learned that.
Yeah.
I hope we've learned that.
Yeah.
And we do throw up a lot of barriers in front of what we think is open, and they're not just subscription barriers or tuition fee barriers. The ease of the software, the accessibility of the content, all of that plays a role.
Yeah, I have an opportunity to rent an office space, below market. And I want to set up a little digital center. I just spent a couple of weeks in New Mexico with, Joe Lambert, Digital Storytelling Center.
Yeah.
Out of Berkeley. He just got an opportunity to move to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and he took it. It was a great opportunity. So he just ran his first in-person workshop in almost 2 years. And my mom was from New Mexico, and I'm like, I got to go to Santa Fe and check this out. I'm one of his facilitators.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I've been working online with them, exclusively the last couple of years. I just hang around, help people with technology, and,
that's really cool. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. So I just did that. And so I have this idea that I'll set up a little local center for digital learning. I don't know, I can't figure out what to call it, but I think there's a market. There's a little column in Whittier,
local
California.
Center for Digital Learning.
Yeah, something like. Well, actually, I have a URL, Right Spot. I really like that.
Right Spot. Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's short.
Yeah.
There's a little private college, Whittier College, and then I'm in this little village, uptown area that's full of small businesses. And I know every small business I walk into, I just stand there in just amazement at their 15-year-old computer and their employee that can't even do anything.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I just want to set up a little space that says, hey, drop in, let's talk about it. I promote Google. I mean, you have to pick one evil empire, so I pick Google, whatever. Not Microsoft. Because at least Google's kind of free. I mean, you're the product, but you don't have to pay up front.
Yeah.
So I promote that. Then I work with some educators. And so I figure if I have this little center, so kind of a hybrid thing, right? I can run online workshops. And so I do that. I try to just help people use the crap they have. I mean, it's just that simple. Completely user-based kinds of workshops. So, and I could, they're online. Eventually I'll get organized and they'll be on a website, and they'll be free mostly, and then and then do something to pay the rent. So that's what I'm kind of working on, just to have a little center. And then, I know some writers and I know teachers, and there are a bunch of students in this neighborhood. So to have a little place where they could drop in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm working towards this winter. I hope to get that organized if the below market space actually becomes available.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I mean, the way things are looking, it's, I think office space will be pretty available now.
Yeah.
Maybe not storefront, but even storefront. Yeah. Because people are using online purchasing more and more.
Yeah. Oh, there's plenty of available storefronts. This is
Mhm.
actually just off the main shopping street, but I mean, literally around the corner. So it's a perfect
Yeah.
location.
Well, that's
Um,
fine for something like what you're describing.
Absolutely.
A
And
main
then,
presence.
yeah. And then to do digital storytelling workshops,
Mhm.
it's a cute little town. There's
Yeah.
parks, there's actually trails just a quarter mile away so
Mm.
that people
Nice.
do photo adventures and, it's a
Yeah.
nice little town to visit. And it's only 12 miles from downtown LA. So it's like
Yeah.
this little Quaker village.
How can you have a
12
little
miles from downtown
town
LA.
12 miles from LA?
I know, it's weird. I
Is
grew up
it in
here.
the hills or?
So there's this little band of hills that separates what's called the Inland Empire,
Yeah.
which used to be where they made steel, basically. Riverside and San Bernardino, all that out there. There's a
Yep.
little chain of hills that separates that from Orange County.
Right.
And right where those hills end, 12 miles from downtown LA, that's where a bunch of Quakers planted a bunch of walnut trees and
Oh,
cypress.
okay.
So it's this sunny hillside that faces both south and west. Perfect
Yeah.
climate. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, it used to be, a 10-mile horseback ride. And then it just got overwhelmed. I mean, when I was a kid, there was still Orange County was still orange trees. And there was
Yeah.
something called the Irvine Ranch, which was like 300,000 acres owned by one guy. And then that became Irvine, and they put the University of California, Irvine there, and then all the gated communities went up, and that's what we got now. But I can remember when you had to drive across those orange trees to go to San Diego. But now that's all gone. And I remember when it used to be a 50-mile ride across the desert of Palm Springs.
Yeah.
Not now.
Not now.
50 miles of condos. So
I took a bus once from Anaheim as far south as I could go, and I got to a point where I got to the end of the line, and I could get off that bus and get on another bus. I didn't, but I could, and continue on to San Diego. And these are just city buses going through urban areas.
Yeah.
It's so basically urbanized all the way to the border and then beyond.
And beyond. Absolutely. Yeah, in the 70s, I used to tell visitors that Los Angeles was 100 miles by 100 miles.
Yeah.
10,000 square miles. Now Los Angeles is 200 miles by 200 miles.
Yeah.
40,000 square miles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. I was in the Bay Area for 30 some years, but it's just gone crazy up there, the prices.
Yeah.
And the gentrification is almost militarized. They're getting right to the point of militarizing the gentrification.
I
Down
saw
here,
my
LA's so big, they just keep building.
California.
What's that?
I saw my first gated communities in California.
I believe they were invented. Well, I don't know. They were popularized here.
Yeah.
I don't know where they were invented, but yeah, it's disgusting. So, and my little town, village, whatever it is right on the LA Orange County border. You drive out past Nixon's old house and you run into Orange County line. So, yeah. Well, we've wasted another hour.
Yes, we have. And I hope that the people watching this found this entertaining. And we did talk about subject matter related to the course. So bonus.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, and for those watching the video, if you made it this far, the next session of this course is Monday. The next live session, I should say, is Monday, October 18, 12 noon Eastern time. It's still Eastern Daylight Time, which I believe is GMT -5, but I can't swear to that. So you need to check. So it's probably about 5 p.m. in Britain, 6 p.m. in Europe, 7 p.m. in Eastern Europe, and so on. And ridiculous o'clock in Australia, New Zealand, and in China. But of course, everything is being recorded. This video is recorded. It's live streamed on YouTube. The captions are being produced by artificial intelligence, although poorly. So, and those will all be available I've got another recording of the audio, which Google will be transcribing, probably better, but we'll see. And all of that will be available on the course website. And there are, of course, more videos coming. There are videos coming this course pretty much every day because I've got a lot of stuff to put out there. But also there's the activities in that, which should produce, like I say, hopefully unexpected results. So I guess we'll wrap up. Thanks a lot for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Stephen. Can I ask one more question before we go?
Oh, absolutely.
Can you tell me about your little village from your address that I see everywhere? It sounds like you're in a small village or
I am.
outside.
I'm in a village called Castleman.
Yeah.
It was founded by a guy called Castleman, who was given logging rights to the area. And so he, in the mid 1800s, Castleman is about, it's roughly halfway between Ottawa and Montreal in rural Eastern Ontario. It's got a population of maybe 2,000, give or take. So it's not tiny. It's actually one of the larger villages I've lived in. I grew up in a village about a quarter of the size, and I've lived in even smaller. But it's rural. We're surrounded by cornfields, soybeans, and some other crops, but mostly corn and soybeans.
Cash crops.
And they're used to feed cows. Well, maybe not the soybeans, but the corn is definitely used to feed cows. The cows around here are very well fed, and they're used to produce dairy. And just down the road from us is the even smaller village of St. Albert, which has a world famous cheese factory. So I bike down there on a regular basis for their cheese and their other goodies. And I picked it because it's in the country. I grew up in the country. I wanted to be in the country, but it's on the railway between Ottawa and Montreal. So there's a train station here, which serves us poorly, but still serves us. And that turned out to be prescient because Greyhound bus ceased operations in Canada, and people have been scrambling ever since. It's also an exit on the main highway, exit number 66. And, if you ever drive down those highways and you always wonder, like you're driving from city to city on an interstate, you see people leaving the highway in the middle of nowhere and you wonder, what's it like to live there? I've always wondered that sort of thing, and now I know.
Good and bad.
Yeah. So it's not beautiful. There's a river, the South Nation River. It's a decent size. It's not huge, but it's a decent size. And there was first of all, an old sawmill, and then more recently, an old power plant. Now it's just a dam used to control flooding. So we have the river and a little tiny, riverside park area. But mostly, we've got a big forest, La Rose Forest, north of town, and then the river just winding through the area, and fields south of town. As I go west toward Ottawa, it gets more urbanized, obviously. East, there's more farmland until you get to the Quebec border, and then from the Quebec border all the way through to Montreal, it's urbanized. It's semi-urbanized. You look at a map, you think, oh yeah, that's country, but you look at the satellite photo, it's full of houses. So it's really quite interesting.
So the little ranchettes, 2 acres, 5 acres, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah. Just throughout that little piece of Quebec that's between the Ottawa and St. Lawrence rivers. Very much so. And that's also happening around Ottawa as well. We're sort of in between those two areas, but they're sort of beginning to squeeze us in.
Yeah.
So I might be looking for more rural again. Oh, yeah. I like it here. And the funniest thing and it isn't funny, actually. It's actually a pretty serious observation, because I cycle around this area a lot, and around here the important people are the farmers, and everybody else exists to serve the farmers. All the stores, all the shops, the dealerships, the roads, the railways, even. And that puts me in my place. I mean, because, I work for a federal research agency. I do, as you said, leading edge work on technology. I sometimes think I'm pretty important. But then I ride my bike
Not at the
around
feed
here.
store.
Pardon?
Not at the feed store. They don't
Not at
care.
the feed store. No, and and I'm sure it's not true, but I almost imagine them looking at me and thinking, well, there's a person who does nothing productive in society.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that's what I like about this area. It puts me in my place. It's it's not beautiful. It's not touristy, although it is beautiful.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
It's the other side of it is, yeah, I'm living in paradise. It's actually, you get out into the country, it's just gorgeous out here. Especially,
Nice.
in the fall, the leaves turning, but also even in the winter and the spring. We got forests, trails, rivers, fields, swamps. Just on the other side of the Ottawa River, we have Canadian Shield Territory, Laurentian Mountains, even ski hills and such. They're not huge like the Rockies, but they're a lot of up and down for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Nice. Yeah, so I always wondered, so you work 100% remote?
Right now,
No.
yeah. I'm at home, and I've been at home for the last 2 years.
Right. Oh, but before that, you would go to some office
I
somewhere?
would go to an office in Ottawa, and I had ongoing arguments with my supervisors. In fact, as long as I've worked with NRC, about whether I can work from home, because I've always known I could do the job from home, and it always seemed silly for me to drive for almost an hour into Ottawa to sit in a room that looks functionally exactly like the room I'm sitting in now.
Yeah.
So,
well, I guess that argument got solved.
That argument got solved, but that's, I mean, this whole online thing was new to a lot of people, but I was already pretty comfortable with it. So for me, not a whole lot changed with the pandemic, but that's also what told me that a lot of the stuff that people said, no, you can't do online, I knew you could, because I had been doing it, and it was just a matter of people changing their habits.
Yeah, it was the same for me. The last 2 years have been no big deal.
Yeah.
I was already sitting at the same desk doing the same thing.
Yeah,
exactly. So and now I have a couple of clients that I work with, and in the broader, I mean, so there I have whatever those examples, and then in the broader, there's an awful lot of small businesses that realize, do we really need to rent that office? Do we really need to pay that landlord $50,000 a year? Maybe not.
Yeah. So things are just beginning to change. I mean, we're not at the end of anything yet. We're at the beginning.
Yeah, I agree. On that note.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining me. Thanks to people watching on YouTube. Thanks to people watching later on YouTube or listening to the audio, because this is also a podcast. Until next time, I'm Stephen Downs. You're Mark
Wilson. Corbett Wilson.
Mark Corbett Wilson, right. And thanks for joining me, and let's do it again.
I look forward to it.
Great.